Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie Robinson. I decided to do a fun video for you guys today, and it's actually a military wife tag or army wife tag in this case. So I have a list of questions that were asked, and I'm gonna go through them with you guys and answer them.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now. Set aside your worries, it's okay now. The sun is here to stay. Blue skies, feel the wind beneath you as you fly.
First, a little bit about I guess why I'm doing this. My husband is active duty Army, and we're stationed in Washington, D.C. right now. We were a couple different places. He's been more places than me because we got married partway into his military career. But my husband graduated from West Point and then commissioned into the U.S. Army as an infantry officer after completing IBULIC, which is Infantry Basic Officers Leaders Course, which you can look up. I should probably do another video for y'all on acronyms if there is any interest in that. But then he was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia for a little while, and then we were at Fort Bragg, North Carolina with the 82nd Airborne Division. He was an airborne paratrooper, and then we ended up here, which we felt was the best decision for our family and kind of my career. I kind of put a lot of time into his career and effort holding down the fort, and then we decided to transition to allow my career to blossom a little bit. It's different for everyone. This is something I was really passionate about, juggling kind of career and family, so I really appreciate him for allowing me to do that. But that's our little story. He is still active duty Army right now, so let's get started. The first question is, how do we meet? So this is shameful, but it is classic military. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. I'm ashamed to tell y'all this. There is a video on it, but Michael and I met on Tinder. And it's crazy the way we met, because unless he had location, I think they had a thing, I don't even know if they have it anymore, where you could expand your location. So unless he was paying for Tinder, I honestly don't know how we met other than the providence of God, because literally he was in North Carolina visiting friends. I was moving down there. Then I was back in Pennsylvania getting more of my stuff. And he was stationed in Georgia at the time. What was weird was we matched on Tinder when he was in Georgia and I was in North Carolina, which is outside of that 500-mile radius or whatever. But we are both from the same area in Pennsylvania. So it's just mind blown what. And we met on Tinder and started talking. We talked for 12 hours the first time we got on the phone, and it was all about our faith and neuroscience and all this nerdy stuff, literature that we love. So it was just fantastic. And that's how we met. The next question is when and where do we get married? So Michael and I got married after dating for a while and then being engaged for a while. We didn't want to rush things along. I think things in the military are really sped up, and Michael was one of the only officers that wasn't married. A lot of them get married right after school. Drew is in the background, my son. And a lot of them get married right away, which wasn't really our style. I was in grad school. He was just he's a very steady, slow-paced, logical person. And getting married right away just wasn't in the cards for us, and neither of us wanted it. We kind of wanted to test the waters and see how our relationship would do with certain trials. So, yeah, we did not get married right away. We dated for quite a while before getting married, but we then got married a year and a half ago, and we got married in Pennsylvania, back in his hometown, which was wonderful and really special to us. And we have those memories kind of separate from the military. We did not do the whole courthouse wedding thing. That is something that if you're a military spouse, so many military spouses do the courthouse wedding where they get married on paper and then they have the big wedding later, and it's just something that has to happen because of timeline and all of that, and the fact that they can do that more power to you. We decided to wait because our faith was really important to us. And although we totally could have gotten married in the courthouse in North Carolina at Fort Bragg is actually in the jail. So like that wasn't really our jam, but it's kind of a funny fun fact. If you're ever stationed at Fort Bragg and you're gonna get married, it's in the jail. But yeah, so that is why we waited. It was just really important to us that kind of our faith was woven throughout the service. Our families and were there, and the people that really kind of made our lives what they are, our friends and mentors. And so really by the time we factored in everyone we would want to come to the courthouse, we were having a wedding. So we decided to wait. I definitely think that God is present everywhere. I don't think that he's not present in a courthouse wedding. It was just something that really mattered to us. Okay, the next question is, what was my favorite base? So wow, this is an interesting question. I have a lot of friends that have lived different places, so I've kind of checked out different bases. I felt like Fort Bragg had a lot of resources because it's just such a massive base. If you guys aren't aware, it is the largest Army post in the entire country. So I think it's second to Fort Hood, just because Fort Hood has more training area. But it is a vast amount of space. Like it takes an hour to drive from one side to the other around the top half of it. It's like unreal. But Fort Bragg had a lot of things. They had ice skating rink, they had rock climbing, they had, a wood shop, crafting places. It was really cool. There were a lot of support resources on post for families. That being said, the area around it, they actually joke and they call it Fayetteville. Fayetteville is like the sketchiest place. Now, that being said, there are beautiful suburbs of Fort Bragg, just not Center City, Fayetteville. It's very sketchy, not particularly safe. Just a really seedy area. It's totally gentrifying. They're actually flipping a lot of the historic homes. Cool kind of craft coffee shops and businesses are coming in. It's definitely improving. But then we loved north of Fayetteville, kind of towards Raleigh, North Carolina. There's some beautiful land up there. You're close to Raleigh. There's a lot of culture. A lot of people live in Fuquay. And then a lot of people live in Southern Pines. And Southern Pines is just the prettiest little town. So on railroad tracks, there's a lot of arts and culture there. It's a big horse area. So there are perks to living at Fort Bragg, just not really downtown Fayetteville. Favorite base / post right now. I don't know. I think it's Marine Corps bases, maybe bases. I don't know if they call them bases. I know Army calls them posts. So our favorite post, we love West Point. I just love the history of West Point. And I say that because I think where we're stationed now echoes that same history. The buildings are so old, historic. There's so much culture and just kind of beautiful old elements there. Mike is a big history person, so we really love posts that have those older elements that aren't just totally new. Fort Belvoir in Virginia is a very new, up-to-date post. Beautiful houses, an incredible hospital, things like that. But again, it doesn't really have that history that some of these places like West Point and some of the posts in DC have. So we do love this post just because of all the buildings, and the people that work there are cool too. But the next question is, has he been deployed? So Mike has been deployed. He was deployed when we were dating, and we got engaged when he got back. It was a short deployment. It was not a particularly long one. It was to the Middle East. There was some stuff that was going on over there at the time, and we didn't have a ton of communication just because the quality of internet and things like that, it just wasn't really a thing. It wasn't, I feel like we were really blessed compared to some people because of the length and intensity of our deployment. I think it's really important as a military spouse never to like deployment shame or compare. It's something I've noticed between my friends and other people that I've just kind of mentored in this life. It is crazy how many people basically put you down because your deployment wasn't hard enough, or they didn't see certain things, or it wasn't this long, or you got more phone calls. Now, I didn't experience a deployment where I really got like many phone calls at all, or had that letter writing support or anything like that. It's not really the kind of people we are necessarily, it's not how Michael copes with separation from his loved ones. But I think this is all to say, just if you have friends that are going through deployments or you go through deployment yourself, never let anyone shame you for what you have conquered together. If you remain faithful and you have persevered, even if you feel weak in those moments, you're not always going to feel strong, but it's that perseverance through the situation that really kind of shows your true character. It's not, you know what, there will always be worse deployments. In the initial invasion of, Iraq and Afghanistan, each one, these deployments, these guys were getting like one phone call out in 24 or 18 months and 12 months and stuff like this. And it's so humbling to hear leaders and spouses' stories from that time period, because that is unbelievable. Like anybody now, it doesn't compare to that time. And you compare those things to wars that are before our lifetime, in our parents' lifetime, and those are the real MVP spouses. That being said, like, that doesn't mean what you went through wasn't hard. Even the guys going away for training and having no phones and no communication, going to the field all the time is hard. So even if your deployment is shorter or it's not to a place that necessarily sees as much action as others, I think places, Korea, the Middle East, things where there are things going on, it adds a different element definitely than like deployments to Germany or places like that, the Netherlands, only because in addition to missing your spouse and not having much communication, you're also wondering if they're okay. But don't ever discount what you are doing. So anyways, yes, Mike has been deployed. He was deployed to the Middle East. We crushed the deployment. It was hard. We didn't have much communication. If you guys want me to talk about our experience and things that I think help couples during deployments, I will do another video on that. I am a therapist and I was a neuroscientist and all this fun stuff. So I love talking about women's health and relationships as well. I do work with military communities, PTSD, things like that. If you want me to do another video on how to crush time apart and deployments and just kind of the mental mindset going into those things for the spouses, I would love to do that, but I'm not going to answer all that now. Okay, the next question is it hard to be happy when he's deployed or away in training? I think there are times you go through phases, and this is something I would love to like popcorn with a friend and do a video on kind of the phases of deployment. I think it is really important to understand and validate your emotions. So you're not supposed to be emotionless during this time. You definitely start out really sad, just because you're going from having them all the time to not having them and not being able to talk to them and wondering where they are and if they're okay. It is hard to be happy, I think, during that time, but it's not hard to be joyful. And I think that's something to remember, is there's a difference between happiness and joy. I actually have a video on this and how it relates to scripture and my faith, but joy is something that you can have no matter what the circumstances are, and happiness is something that is dependent on your happenings or your situation. Are you going to be sad the whole time they're gone? Yes, you are. But you can have a deep-seated joy rooted in things that are greater than getting phone calls or FaceTimes every day from your significant other. I really didn't have much communication with Michael when he was gone. And yet I filled my time with things that helped keep my mind off of it and pointed me in the right direction. I threw myself into going to church. I took on extra jobs. I learned new activities. I was training my dog, things like that. I went to see friends that I missed, and rely on your family. Like I went home more when he was gone. I know a lot of people do this, especially if you have babies. Go home, be with your loved ones if you can. So it's not hard. I really didn't cry that much. I think nighttime is the hardest, if you want my honest opinion. I think it is really hard to fall asleep and not let your mind run. And I do have thoughts on that. I was thinking about writing a blog post on nighttime routine for deployments, because I established one that helped me just kind of put my head in the right headspace and get to sleep, because not sleeping will just make it all worse. I do remember one time I broke down like crazy because I watched like this sad dog movie. Oh my gosh, don't do that. Don't watch the sad dog movies when your husband is deployed or whoever's deployed. That's the only thing. Okay, next question is, have you ever been to a promotion ceremony? I've actually been to a couple. Most recently I was at Michael's promotion ceremony to captain. I totally realized I didn't edit the footage and upload it on here, so I think I'm gonna do that. It was really sweet and very meaningful to us because we'd gone through a lot of crazy stuff right before. I actually had an emergency C-section about 7 days before his promotion ceremony to captain, so I was kind of barely walking and super swollen. It was just like it was a mess, but the ceremony was very meaningful to us, and he said wonderful things to me, which was really sweet. I wasn't expecting. Mike is not a super out there person who likes, you know, the camera and being in public and all this other stuff. He just like talking in front of public speaking. That's what I'm going for. So yeah, it was very special for us because we'd kind of gone through quite a bit of hard stuff with my pregnancy and you know, my son almost being stillborn and emergencies with that and hospital visits and then an emergency C-section right before and moves and packed up our house, moved all the boxes ourselves. We didn't have the military move us, and also like literally sold the house myself, all while being like pregnant and throwing up everywhere and everything else in the world. So it was really special. Anyways, I was really, really appreciative to him. The ceremony was really cool. I've also helped with other promotion ceremonies because Daisy is literally having a dream right now, a puppy dream. I'm dying. I've helped with other promotion ceremonies actually because I was Michael's company FRG leader / co-FRG leader with someone else for a while. So I was like an FRG leader and then I was a co-leader. And yeah, that was a really cool experience. So if you guys want to learn more about like the FRG and being an FRG leader, let me know. I think there's good and bad to it. I think it should be a good thing. I think it's used the wrong way by a lot of people. And I hate drama and I hate girl drama. So I think it's like a breeding ground for that. But yes. How old were we when we met? Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. I honestly don't remember. I think I was 21. I think I was 21 and Mike was 24. I think I was 21. I think he was 24. I don't remember. Maybe he was 23. I think I was 21 and he was 23. Yeah, I think that sounds right. Do we live on post? Okay, Mike and I have never lived on post actually. Mike has always lived off post. He has lived off post at Benning, Bragg, and now where we are posted now, we actually are totally not on post housing people. I've heard good things about it. We have been able to save BAH, which is BAH stands for Basic Allowance for Housing. It's a stipend the military gives you based on your geographic location and the housing market in that area to compensate you for the cost of off-post living. We've always been able, until we moved to DC, to find housing that was under our BAH that we were fine with. So then it technically allows you to save it and we would put it into other things. Here, the BAH does not even come close to like covering anything reasonable in this area, so that is like sad. They say it should, but it really doesn't. So yeah, they adjust it basically based on whether you're married, the number of dependents you have, children, things like that. So we do not live on post. I have friends that do and that have had good and bad experiences. I know there was a big thing about mold and how they were handling it at a bunch of posts. Fort Bragg was a big issue. Melania Trump actually came down to kind of touch on the housing issues at Bragg at one point, but I have heard really great things about some on-post housing. We just always choose to live off-post because we kind of like a little bit more privacy and also just like to flip houses and fun stuff like that. Do you think military life is more advanced or military relationships are more advanced? This is a weird question to me. I'm going to kind of take it as like faster paced. I guess that's what y'all mean by it. But I do think that they usually are faster paced. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think that people tend to rush them. I'm not entirely sure why. I do know long distance relationships usually move faster. I know a lot of military relationships start out as long distance relationships, so that I understand. I think that these move faster, long distance slash military relationships move faster because you're talking about deeper things sooner. So we live in a world where you meet someone in a bar or you see someone at the gym and you take them out on dates, and like really they're relatively superficial dates and you don't have to get to like the deep nitty-gritty of things. With military relationships and long distance relationships, it's not really worth like flying somewhere to see the person or like putting tons of time into this relationship if there's someone that you have no similar values and dreams in life and things like that. So I do think they move faster in that regard. Like Michael and I were talking about our faith and what we want for marriage and whether we're dating for marriage and our career goals and philosophy on raising children and all these things, like probably in our first few weeks of conversation, just because we are people that our faith is important. We do date for marriage and don't really like want to just kind of date whoever. They have to have certain values. And before we went and saw one another, we needed to make sure we're actually interested. So I do think in that regard, they do move faster. I don't think they have to. I know a lot of people get married for the benefits very quickly. I don't think this is a good thing. I think it rushes the natural trial process and like premarital counseling and all these things that you should be figuring out before you make that commitment to one another, which I also think is part of the reason why there's a high divorce rate in the military. I think it's that. I think it's that the relationships are tested more. They're harder. You go through more, you're separated more, and just the spouse that's in the military, whether it's your husband or the wife, they work harder hours than the normal person. I mean, Michael works, like now it's chiller, but he would work like 14 to 18 hour days. And so when you look at a spouse that works that much, that's not normal. Like most people work an 8-hour job. It's not a particularly physical job. If they're an office worker, if they work construction or something like that, then yeah, it is physical. But these guys are working physical jobs like for hours on end, and it takes a toll. It's hard on everyone, and it also affects their ability to contribute to like your family when they're home. They just have less energy. They have, less get up and go, whatever. They're exhausted. So do I own any Army wife stuff? Oh my gosh. I have a yellow ribbon on my car. It's not really Army wife stuff. And then Drew is talking. Apparently he wants to be in the vlog too. I made an Army wife shirt for someone on Etsy once that I was selling, and they didn't end up finishing placing the order. So it's like in my closet, but I have never worn it. So no, I do not have any Army wife stuff. I do have things from Michael's units that he was in, that he's given me, or that we ordered with the FRG, but no, I do not own any Army wife stuff. If you're an Army wife and you're proud and you want to wear it, you do you, girl, but it's not my jam. What is the hardest part about being an Army wife? Well, it's probably the separation. So I think a lot of people think it's deployments, and deployments are very hard, but even when they're home, they're not home. And I think that's something that was the hardest thing for us is, I guess I have two hardest things. Deployments, training, time in the field, ROTC, or not ROTC, oh my gosh, JRTC, NTC, things like that, where they go to national training centers, or joint readiness training center, tactical centers, I think it's training center, based on like whether they're heavy weapons or not. It's just time away from your family. Michael went on multiple missions, jumps, different places, stuff like that. It's just hard. And even when they're home, they're in the field, like, okay, they might be home and not deployed, but they're in the field Monday through Friday or whatever. And that means they're sleeping out somewhere, not at home. They don't have their phones, whatever. And it's difficult. You're holding down the fort by yourself, whether you're managing childcare or just getting everyone to bed by yourself or trying to work a job. Like while being home with your kids alone, you single parent a lot. And I think that's really hard. The other thing that I think is really hard is that you're just away from your support system. this ties into point one. You're moved around all the time, and although that can be really cool if you love to travel, it is very hard if you have a family because you don't have people to babysit. We're in the coronavirus crisis right now, and I'm trying to work and was called to go back to work, and I had no one to babysit my son because we're not near any family. If I lived at home, I'd have 2 grandmas that want to babysit all the time, and it's another added cost trying to find childcare when you don't have another spouse or partner that can watch them on the off hours or whatever. So that's really hard. The other thing that I think is really hard is just that like planning component. People are always asking, when are you going to be home? What can we plan for the holidays? Do you want to go on vacation? Things like that. You cannot plan anything. Like the military changes all of it. Like if you think you're a planner, you better get used to not planning anything. Like we have had friends whose weddings got canceled like the week of their wedding because of the military. And like, I don't know how she did it or like had any mental sanity because like literally whole wedding got canceled the week of the wedding because military deployed him. And always vacations, holidays, things like that, our holiday plans get uprooted because Mike wasn't allowed to leave a certain radius. Like it is insane. So I just really think that if you're a planner, you got to get used to the not planning life. So anyways, this is my Milso tag video. If you don't know what a Milso is, it is a military significant other. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want me to make a few more military videos, I would be more than happy to do that. I would love to do one about mental health and deployments. Maybe like an abbreviations video. I will totally do something funny, maybe with Michael, if that would interest you guys. I know he would hate it, but maybe we can talk him into it. So let me know what you guys want to see. Drop it in the comments below, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.